It took me a while to consider doing this about Andy Reid because he's so legendary and he's won Super Bowls, and, on his way to the Hall of Fame. But once I saw that they fired Jim Harbaugh, and I remembered that even Bill Belichick was let go, you know, it started to sink in me that I think it's time for Andy to go. And hopefully I can make my case to you. How does a great system stop working without collapsing? That's the main question that I wrestled with. And I want to call this, the cost of being too successful. There are only five head coaches. You have to remember, there's only five head coaches in NFL history who've crossed the threshold that separates excellence from performance. Number one is Don Shula. Then there's Bill Belichick. There's George Hallis. There's Andy Reid. And then there's Tom Landry. That's it. It's not a ranking by popularity, it's a record of survival. Between them, these men didn't just win games, they shaped eras. Now, if you think of Jim Harbaugh just a little bit more, Jim is trying to break into that legendary crowd, right? Jim was the first head coach ever to win a playoff game in his first 5 seasons. So that will go a long way to getting him into that ground. But these guys, they outlasted trends. They built systems so effective that the league eventually had to react to them. And every one of them, without exception, faced the same late career question. Does a system that made you great still protect you? Or has it started to work against you? And Coach Reed's name belongs in this list because, for, a reason. Over 300 total wins, right? Multiple Super Bowl championships. The winningest coach in Kansas City Chiefs history. Since 2018, the Chiefs have accumulated more first downs than any team in football. Nearly 3,000 first downs. They are tied with Buffalo for the most touchdowns in the NFL over that span. They've been to 5 Super Bowls and won three. This is not the resume of a failing coach by any means. It's a resume of a coach who has already proven everything, which is exactly why the question becomes uncomfortable, right? Because in the NFL, coaches aren't fired for being bad. They're fired when the league catches, you know, the changes, and the league catches up faster than they do, right? The, the league starts to adjust. Shula adapted, Belichick dominated, then stalled out. You remember. Landry innovated, then he hardened. Hallis built the league and eventually watched it outgrow him. Greatness didn't end careers. Timing does. And when a coach reaches the point where success has bought him so much credibility that decline becomes harder to recognize, that's when the most difficult evaluations begin. So this isn't an argument that Andy Reid has failed. It's an argument that being one of the greatest coaches ever does not exempt you from the same fate that met every coach who came before him. The question isn't whether Andy Reid belongs among the legends. The question is whether the the very system that put him there is still built for the NFL he's coaching in now. So number one, you have resistance, right? This is when effort starts stops working. Andy Reid's offense no longer scares teams on the ground. The Chiefs finished near the bottom of the league in explosive rushing plays. And the problem isn't just production, it's commitment. Kansas City lacks a true featured running back who can impose, you know, a physical identity. And as a result, short yardage situations rarely default to the run game. I mean, it always does. On third and short, where other teams, compress the field and dare defenses to survive contact, the Chiefs often spread it out instead. It's crazy. Rather than forging a dependable run game, the burden shift to Patrick Mahomes, who is increasingly being asked to scramble when structure breaks down, turning necessity into improvisation instead of design. In the moments that historically demand a run, late downs, tight games, physical matchups, Kansas City often passes, choosing cleverness over certainty. To me, Coach Reid he's outsmarting himself. It's crazy. The run game exists, but only in fragments. It shows up on a changeup, not a threat, a suggestion, not a demand. That's the problem. Look at these stats. The Chiefs finished with 1,812 total rushing yards, well behind the league's leading rushers. They logged they logged only 430 rushing attempts all season, far from the league's most committed ground games. If you look at the Buffalo Bills, they have over 100 more rush attempts than the Chiefs. Kansas City produced just 15 rushing touchdowns, half of what the Buffalo Bills generated on the ground. They were one of five teams without a single 40-yard rush all season long. Because Coach Reid has long trusted space, timing, and pass driven structure over power football, he remains committed to fully committing to a downhill run identity, even as defenses increase. And, they defenses invite him to do that. I mean, they are waiting for the Chiefs to run, and the Chiefs refuse to run. Coach Reid does not believe in a run. The Chiefs' run game hasn't disappeared. It's become a rumor, something opponents hear about, but never actually have to deal with. And here's the confusing thing, right? The Chiefs' offense still looks correct. It still looks good. And that's what makes the decline so confusing. Kansas City can still move the ball in stretches. The formations are sharp. The play designs are recognizable. The quarterback is still elite. On paper, the logic reads like the same machine that once forced defenses to pick a poison and live with it. But the outcomes don't match the logic anymore, guys. Drives stall in the same places. The condensed field, the third and manageable moment that turns into third and long, the red zone snap where space disappears and the play must win in inches instead of angles. Defenses don't look panicked. They look patient now. They sit on routes, rally the screens, and dare the Chiefs to win in plays that aren't built into their identity. Yards after contact, power runs, early conversions that don't require genius. And because the system is still coherent, every failure feels like an exception instead of a pattern. Here are some more stats. The Chiefs recorded the fewest runs of 20 plus yards in the entire NFL. Baltimore had 25 of such runs of 20 or more yards. Buffalo had 16. Seattle had 18. Kansas City didn't lack efficiency, it lacked explosiveness, the very thing that forces defensive adjustments. Because Coach Reid's system was built to solve problems through spacing and answers, the moment defenses stop giving the expected looks, the results become confusing rather than clarifying. The design remains sound, but the environment no longer behaves like it used to. The Chiefs aren't losing because they don't have a plan. They're losing because their plan keeps arriving one step late, like a perfect key to a lock that's already been changed. Patrick Mahomes become the only thing defenses, had to stop this past season, and that was dangerous. With no credible fare for sustained run game, defenses no longer had to honor balance. Edge rushers widened their focus. Linebackers hovered. Safeties crept forward with their eyes locked on one player. The message was clear. If Kansas City is going to beat us, it will be through Patrick Mahomes, and we will meet him there. As the season wore on, Mahomes was asked to create solutions that the run game should have provided. Scrambles replaced design carries, escapes replaced efficiency. Each broken play asked the quarterback to absorb more contact, carry more weight, solve more problems alone. Eventually, that will cost you, right? Here's some stats. Mahomes finished as one of the team's top rushers with 422 rushing yards. That is not the way the Chiefs play. The Chiefs' leading rusher was Kareem Hunt with only 611 yards, barely more than the quarterback. That's just sad. And Pacheco had only 462 yards. Meanwhile, defenses faced no statistical reason to fear being punished on the ground. Zero. Because Coach Reid's offense relies on the quarterback as the primary engine rather than insulating him with a punishing run game, the system becomes dangerous. Not to defenses, but to the player holding it together. Mahomes wasn't injured because he took a bad hit. He was injured because the offense made him the entire battlefield almost. The Chiefs' lack of a true running back has become more than a personnel issue. It's a structural trap, really, and it really goes beyond just the running back. You really need the running game because that involves the offensive line as well. Um, Coach Reid's mindset defies that. He's not interested. He's not interested in a stout run game by any means. Kansas City rotates backs, deploys situational runners, and treats the position as interchangeable. None are asked to anchor the offense. None are given the volume or identity required to impose themselves on a defense. As a result, the game never feels, it never gains gravity. And because it lacks gravity, it's never trusted. That distrust feeds itself without a true running back. The staff hesitates to call run heavy sequences. I mean, it's obvious. Without run heavy sequences, no back can establish rhythm or credibility. Without credibility, defenses ignore the threat entirely. Each step makes sense. Together, they form a loop. Here's some more stats. The NFL top rushing teams committed fully. Look at Buffalo with 547 rushing attempts, ending up with 2,714 yards with 30 rushing touchdowns. Baltimore, not far behind, with 507 attempts and 2,662 yards and 23 rushing touchdowns. Kansas City is way behind with only 430 attempts, 1,812 yards, and only 15 rushing touchdowns. Commitment, not talent, separates these profiles. Because Coach Reid's system treats the run game as supplemental rather than foundational, the absence of a true running back becomes a trap. Proof that the run can't work, created by never fully trying to make it work. The Chiefs don't lack a running back because they don't believe in the run. They don't believe in the run because they built an offense, Coach Reid's offense, that can never prove it needs one. So why does Andy Reid's name even belong in this conversation? Resistance removed fear, confusion delayed recognition, danger concentrated risk. The trap ensured nothing could self-correct. Correct. And all of it unfolded while other contenders quietly committed to the opposite approach. More runs, more volume, more certainty when space disappeared. The league didn't move subtly, it moved decisively. Look at these stats again. Four of the top five rushing teams exceeded 2,450 yards. Four of the top five leaders in rushing attempts exceeded 500 carries. The Chiefs finished closer to the league's worst committed rushing teams and its most dominant ones. Because the NFL doesn't punish ideas when they fail, but when they linger, the same logic that once gave Coach Reid clarity now creates blind spots, such as resistance. His resistance to the run hardens, confusion delays, danger concentrates, and the trap closes quickly. Andy Reid isn't being questioned because he lost his edge. He's being questioned because the edge he built was turned inward, sharp enough to cut only the people standing closest to it. It's hard to make a case to fire a coach who's still climbing toward the all time wins record. Hard to question someone whose resume is already etched into history. But football doesn't happen on resumes, right? It happens on Sundays. Um, and at some point you have to believe that you're seeing not what you've been not what you have already seen. Legends earn trust through what they've done. They lose it when they stop asking whether it's still working. The most difficult evaluations aren't about failure. They're about recognizing when the past has stopped protecting the present. And Andy Reid's legacy isn't in question. The only question left is whether the field is telling a different story now and whether we're willing to listen. Um, I still think Coach Reid is awesome, but my eyes tell me this past season that the game has passed him by. Now, they probably won't fire him just because he signed that big contract, $100 million contract, just a couple of years ago. So that's probably one strike against him being fired. Um, the other thing is the ownership is cognizant of his quest, to climb that ladder, wins ladder of coaches, and they probably want to give him a shot to do that. But if you look around the league and you look at the teams that are doing well in the NFL today, they all have stout run games. Every single one of them. Look at Detroit. Look at the Chicago Bears. Look at the Seahawks. Everybody's running the ball, big time. The Bills, right? In the AFC. Of course, the Ravens are built around the run. Can you just imagine if Patrick Mahomes had a stout run game, a, a run game that they're committed to, and he's only asked, a quarter of the time less to be great? You wouldn't be able to stop the Chiefs. But with him having the ball, and this entire season, I predicted every play. I could predict every play. Oh, it's 3rd and 1. Watch Patrick try a trick. Watch Patrick scramble. you know, um, and the other thing that people have to think about is the conflict going on in that building, right? The chief the Chiefs signed Elijah Mitchell this past off season. Barely got into a game, and when he got into a game, Coach Reid had him moving to as a catcher, as a pass catcher. It's crazy. It's crazy. And never, I don't think he ever used him after that. Of course, he missed the catch. Um, so why sign a player over $1 million contract to not even have him to have him be a healthy scratch 99% of the season? So what we're not seeing, um, I think, is probably a deep, deep clashes inside that building that nobody's talking about. Maybe between Coach Reid and Veach, who knows? Whatever. But the Chiefs did not look good this past season. They do not have a run game. And people are talking about getting a stout running back, but it makes no difference if you don't have a run game. That a coach that is committed to it. So he probably won't get fired, but it's time that we start talking about it. Because if they go into next season looking the same way, and they're probably, they're they'll probably do that, and they're not going to do well if they keep on the same 2020 style of play that they've had, because the rest of the league have caught on, and they're not going to. They're the Chiefs are not going to have the same success that they've had. You can see last year they barely had that success that took them to the Super Bowl. And even in the Super Bowl, think about that, right? Patrick still dropped back over 40 times, even though the pass rush was just eating up the offense. Coach Reid never adjusted. And I think that kind of um, approach um, in the NFL is over, man. This is Sean McVay's NFL now. This is Sean Payton's NFL. That old school, it's my offense and I'm stubborn and it's my way and or the highway. No, that NFL is gone. That's what Coach Reid is about, and I think it's time that he is on the hot seat because of his accomplishment. Maybe you don't show him the door. Maybe he can be reassigned, right? If Bill Belichick can be let go, maybe Coach Reid can be reassigned to the front office, since because the contracts for coaches in the NFL are guaranteed. So maybe Clark Hunt can, you know, put him in the front office and get a younger head coach to get the. I mean, Mahomes' career is halfway through now, and who knows if he's going to even be able to start the season next year, and where he'll be with this ACL injury. So that's what I think. Let's see what the Chiefs do. I hope for me, I would if the Chief for my if the Chiefs ask me for my um, ideas about it, I would say relieve Coach Reid and bring in a new younger head coach for the second half of Patrick Mahomes' career and move forward. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. Thanks. Please like and subscribe. Appreciate you.